Yes, guys, welcome back to the Bridge Side. I hope you're all well. Honestly, I hope you're all good, especially after last night. Because every now and then, you come across a game of football that completely just defies logic. A match that you'll be talking about this game for years to come, and we've seriously just witnessed one of those games. I had to jump on here and talk about it because I'm still trying to get my head around what the hell happened last night. I mean, forget tactics, forget moments of magic. Some games are just decided by pure nonsense, and we've just watched one of the worst we've ever seen. We were talking about a refereeing performance so unbelievably bad, so one-sided. I have to assume he wore the wrong shirt when he walked out of that dressing room. We're talking about a game that was hijacked by the weather and a 90-minute match that literally turned into 5 hours. Chelsea versus Benfica in the 2025 World Cup. And let me tell you, Chelsea weren't just playing against 11 men in red. They were playing against the man with the whistle and a thunderstorm that, nearly handed the game literally to Benfica. Look at the final score, 4-1. You think it was a walk in the park, right? A comfortable, dominant win. The scoreline is literally a complete and utter lie. It hides the truth of one of the most infuriating, bizarre, and ultimately brilliant nights I've ever had as a Chelsea fan. I have never seen a team climb a mountain that high. I literally have never ever seen a referee have a game like this guy did. And I'm going to show you exactly how it all went down, because this wasn't just a win, okay? It was a statement. This is literally how Chelsea, against all odds, smashed Benfica. So, before the absolute chaos erupted at the Bank of America Stadium, there was actually a football match going on. Enzo Maresca is obsessed with control, and he's set his team up to just choke the life out of Benfica. And for a while, it literally was working to perfection. The lineup told you everything you needed to know, right? Robert Sanchez in goal, a back three of Colwill, Badiashile, and obviously our main man captain, Reece James. Playing on the right of that three was a clear sign that we were here to attack. And this was not a team just to sit back. This was a dominant team. Maresca basically built a wall in the midfield, and I think we all seen that when we've seen a four-man group of Enzo Fernandez, Romeo Lavia, Moises Caicedo, and Marc Cucurella. The mission was clearly simple, was to get the ball, keep the ball, and give Benfica absolutely no room to breathe. We were pressing high, it was relentless, and Benfica were absolutely suffocating. Up top we had the flair of Neto and the new man Delap and the main man Cole Palmer. But from the very first whistle, you saw the plan. Chelsea were patient and they were constantly looking for that killer pass. The moment was so slick, and Cucurella wasn't just a wing back. He kept popping in that midfield, creating the overloads and causing absolute chaos. He should have scored. When he curled that shot onto his weak foot that was destined for the top corner before a defender somehow got his bloody head to it, on the line, Benfica had no answer. The whole game plan was to sit deep and just maybe get lucky on the counter. But they couldn't even get out their own half. Every time they looked up, there was a blue shirt, if not one, two blue shirts right in their face. And Palmer, to be honest, was just running the show. He was finding them little pockets of space, and he forced a world-class save out of that keeper, whatever the bloody guy's name is. And I'll give that man this. Their keeper was the only reason Benfica was even in the game. The man was a wall, making save after save. My frustration was building, and you could see the teams was too. We were battering them, but the goal just wasn't coming. The scoreboard sat at 0-0 at half time, and I was getting that horrible feeling, the one where you're dominating the game, but that stupid slip up can cost you anything. Maresca was losing his mind on the touchline, and I was there with him, and I know you guys were there with him as well. The tactics were pretty brilliant. You can't deny they weren't brilliant, but the real fight was literally just about to begin, because when we came out in that second half, it carried on just like it ended. Chelsea pressing, Benfica hanging on for dear life, and their bloody keeper playing the game of his life again. The longer it stayed 0-0, the more I was starting to tear my hair out, and every missed chance made me think, this is not going to be our night. This is just they're just going to counter us and just score that one goal and just ruin it for us. We needed someone, anyone just to produce that moment of magic that we need. And then in the 64th minute, we got it from our captain. Chelsea won a free kick on the left-hand side of the box, and it was what, 30 yards out in a horrible angle to shoot from. James didn't just whip it, he absolutely smashed it over the wall, and it dipped with such perfection. That's pure world-class talent, such world talent. But Reece James is not everybody else. He spotted it, that tiny, tiny gap their keeper had left at his near post. It was such an audacious, cheeky idea, and you have to have some serious nerve if you think about trying that, especially at 0-0. And to actually pull it off, I mean, that's pure world-class talent. James, he didn't just whip it, he absolutely drilled it just over the wall, low and hard, with this pinpoint accuracy. Their keeper was sent for a hot dog. He was completely flat-footed, and by the time he realised what had happened, the ball was bulging in the back of the net. And it was inch for inch perfect. It was unbelievable. The stadium, being how empty it was, still erupted. And it was a moment of stunning genius and exactly the breakthrough that we deserved. A proper captain's goal. He made a fool out of that team in that moment. And I thought it was it. The deadlock was broken, and now Chelsea would just cruise into the 80th minute. Liam Delap even had the ball in the net, which, by the way, he took round the keeper beautifully. The offside flag correctly went up, and it was shown later on that it was offside. Maresca clearly thought the job was done too, with the triple subs taking off James, Delap and Enzo. We won a lot in total control and, clearly just heading towards the quarterfinals. The plan had clearly fucking worked. And then it just went completely fucking insane. With just 4 minutes left before stoppage time, the sky over North Carolina just clearly fucking opened up, and, one rumble of thunder and apparently a flash of lightning, which I didn't see, and the referee, bloody what's his name, blows his whistle and takes both teams off. Game suspended. And what happened next was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in football. What was meant to be a quick break turned into literally an absolute joke. Every single time there was a lightning strike, a 30-minute delay safety clock was bloody reset. Minutes turned into an hour, and that hour crawled into almost 2. Nearly 115 minutes, the players were just sitting in the dressing rooms. Can you even imagine what that does to you as a player? You are at your physical mental peak. Your adrenaline's even starting to wear off. Literal minutes away from winning a massive game, and you're just told to stop for 2 hours. How are you supposed to stay focused? It's actually mental. And Maresca was rightly furious. He called the whole thing a joke, and it's not football. How can you keep them 2 hours inside, focused? The restart was a completely different game. I was so pissed off. It was a giant reset button that it could have completely killed our momentum. For Benfica, a team that was dead and buried, this was a gift from above. They got a 2-hour break to get their breath back for one final desperate push. Chelsea's perfectly managed win was about to be thrown into utter chaos, all because they're scared of a little bit of thunder. When we finally got the go-ahead and the teams finally came back out, the atmosphere was bizarre. Half the fans had left, and you can't blame them. This marathon of a game was restarting for just 4 minutes of normal time plus stoppage. And this is where the script flips from a football match to a crime scene, because this is where the referee decided he was going to be the star of the bloody show, and clearly was whoever the bloody the VAR was, because Benfica, who were obviously buzzing after their 2-hour gap or nap or whatever the fuck they were doing, he threw everyone forward, and honestly, it just felt like the referee was doing everything he could to help them. Because first he gives a ridiculous soft free kick against Trevor Chalobah. Maresca later bit his tongue saying, the free kick before the penalty was not a foul, and it is better not to talk about the referee. Well, I'm not just going to talk about him, and those are bloody Maresca's words. Because from that joke of a free kick, the ball gets lumped into the box, it's headed back across goal, and hits the arm of Malo Gusto. Now, let's be absolutely crystal clear about this. Gusto is jumping for a header. His back is turned to the ball. His arm is in a natural position for anyone getting the momentum to jump upwards. There is nothing, absolutely nothing. He could have There was nothing he could have done to avoid it. It is the definition of a ball to hand, and the Benfica players scream for it, as they do. And initially the ref waved it away, but then Vieira buzzes in their ear, and it's a penalty. But let's just get something straight. We were never given the penalty in the last game, which was a clear and obvious penalty, a goal-stopping opportunity. He jogs over to that fucking monitor, and every single Chelsea fan on the planet knew that what was coming. The ref comes back, points to the spot, penalty. An absolute shocking, disgraceful decision. One pundit called him whistle happy, which is the nicest thing you could have possibly said about that bloody ref. Fans were online calling him Benfica's man of the match, and you know what? They're not wrong. He genuinely was. So in that 95th minute of a game that should have been over in 2 hours, Angel Di Maria steps up and sends Sanchez the wrong way, 1-1. All of a sudden, Chelsea's dominance, all that hard work, completely erased by a lightning storm and a referee decision that makes no sense. We were robbed. We were heading to extra time, absolutely robbed. The sense of injustice, was genuinely choking me. It wasn't over though, all right? Because just 2 minutes left into extra time. Benfica sub, that 19-year-old kid, I don't even know what his bloody name, sounds like bloody pasta, decides to lunge in on Levi Colwill, studs up and clear second yellow, and he was off. A moment of absolute madness from that kid. And just like that, Chelsea had that man advantage. The scales, which had been so unfairly tipped against us all game, were starting to balance out. But we had to go and win this match all over again. But I tell you what, I did start to feel confident again in our squad. Extra time started with Benfica down to 10 men. But I could still feel the sting of that equaliser. For a second there, it looked like Benfica had the momentum, and Sanchez had to make a decent save to stop us from going behind. But this Chelsea team, now running in pure, uncut rage from a burning sense of injustice, was not going to let this happen. You could see the fatigue destroy Benfica. Playing for that long with 10 men finally caught with them, and Chelsea smelled blood in the water, and we went for the kill. The explosion of the relief finally came in the 108th minute, when Moises Caicedo, who had been an absolute monster all night, smashed a shot inside the box where their keeper, their hero, all night long, could only pour it away. And who was there, reacting faster than anyone? Christopher Nkunku. He pounced on the rebound and buried it. I say buried it. It was a mishap between that defender, and he managed to just get up quicker and just smash into the roof of the net. And that relief as a Chelsea fan, it was so nice just to be able to breathe and just go, you know what, this is our game now. And I called this game 4-1, by the way. Check my previous video. I called a 4-1 win. That goal didn't just break the deadlock, did it? It shattered the Benfica's will to live. Their legs were gone. Their spirit was broken. And Chelsea, on the other hand, just found another gear. Because then 6 minutes later, those floodgates blew open. Pedro Neto, who had been torturing them all game, was sent clean through on a counter-attack. He raced towards goal, one-on-one. He had the opportunity to pass across goal and just be one of those guys. But he slotted it beautifully past their keeper to make it 3-1. Game over for this. For fucking hell, for the final point of this game. This game was over and buried. But Chelsea weren't finished. They wanted to make a point. 2 minutes after that, with Benfica's defence in a full-blown meltdown, Cole Palmer said a perfect pass to Kane and Dewsbury Hall. The sub took one touch and finessed it calmly to make it 4-1. 3 goals in 9 blistering minutes had turned a disgusting injustice into an absolute humiliation for him. Maybe the final scoreline was flattering, but it was honestly ruthless. Angry response they deserved. That was one of the most draining, infuriating, ultimately satisfying games I've ever watched. Literally a total rollercoaster. But I need to know what you guys think at home. That penalty decision, tell me if I'm not crazy, that to me was not a penalty. That was one of the worst calls I've ever seen, right? I want to hear your rage. Drop it all in the comments below. And if you live for this kind of passionate, take on football, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications. So, to wrap things up, Chelsea are through to the quarterfinals to face Palmeiras. But this game was so much more about, just advancing. This was a test of that team's very soul for that supposable billion-pound bottle jobs of they're too young to make an impact on games. They were tactically perfect. They were forced to sit around for 2 hours while the weather did its best to screw them over. And when they finally got back on that pitch, they were met by a refereeing decision that could have broken every team that had been through that opportunity. But this team didn't break. They didn't moan. They didn't let their heads drop. They got angry. They got back up. And in extra time, they delivered a brutal, vengeful knockout blow. That 4-1 win wasn't just against Benfica. It was a win against chaos. It was against a referee who seemingly was determined to just see them lose. And this isn't the first referee that I think has done this either. But we didn't break. We moaned a little. I don't blame half the players chasing down the referee and calling him for what he was. The amount of times I see Levi Corwell tell him he's fucking shit. I mean, that was, I don't know about you guys lip reading, but that was bloody obvious. But at the end of it, I need you guys to let me know how you felt through that whole game. All right? And I will try and make a video tomorrow with the new transfer updates, with the likes of the new signing, Jamie Gittins. Oh, what a relief. We're into the quarterfinals, guys. Breathe, relax. They've got at least quite a few days, I think 5 or 6 days to chill out now, which they bloody well deserve. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.